Hi, I'm Olivia. I run my own business called Liv the Dream, and I'm going to do a 4-week drawing program with you, teaching you today the basics of drawing. So you'll learn 4 techniques that you can use in your own time, so you can practice something called hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and blending. And these are all techniques that you can apply to any of your drawings that you do at home, and it's a really cool skill to learn. Next week, we're going to use the skills that we used today to do some drawing of still lifes. So next week, I'll spend some time with you setting up something, and we'll be drawing the still life with some of our techniques learnt today. And then we'll be drawing some flowers and oceans in the next few weeks. So there's a lot of content, and I'd love you to join all of the 4 programs, and then you can watch them again on Facebook after. So today, just make sure you've got either a pen, pencil, and some paper. So what I've got here, and we'll get started. So we're going to start with hatching. So this one, I'll show you, but first we're going to do some drawing of shapes, just so that we can use these techniques in our shapes. So if everyone, I'm just using pencil. I do have a pen. It's fine to use pen. Just draw 4 triangles. They don't have to be perfect. And then when you finish that, just draw 4 squares. Maybe make these ones 3D. And again, they don't have to be perfect. So for a 3D square, just draw the front, which is a square, 2 lines just going on an angle. This line parallel to this one. And then follow these 2 and straight up. So if that's not perfect, don't worry, you can do some more practice after our video. This is just something we can practice with today. So I'll give you some time just to finish those. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments, and we've got someone that can present them to me, and I'll answer them over the live video.
So Liv, we've just had somebody who's asked you just to slow down a little bit.
Okay, cool, no worries.
And there seems to be a bit of an echo as well. I don't know where that might be coming from.
Okay. Okay, that echo might be fixed.
I think so.
So I'll just give a little bit more time to have everyone draw those, just 4 of each. So if you're not finished them, that's okay. I'm gonna give a little demonstration on our first technique, which is hatching. This one's quite easy and it can be used with pen or pencil. And what it is, we're gonna do it on the triangle. If we've got some shadow over here, this means the sun's coming from there. So for all of our shapes, we're going to pretend that our sunlight is going to come from this side, which means the light is going to be on this side of the shape and our dark is going to be on this side of the shape. So it might make a bit more sense when we start. So I'll demonstrate hatching and then you can have a go after. So what hatching is, it's just some lines going across. And it doesn't have to be precise. And you'll see that I've left this part completely blank, which is where our sunlight would be hitting it. When we want to go darker, we just introduce some smaller lines over and between our current lines. All the way up. So you can see we're starting to get a gradient, and that's because when these lines are close together, we've got less white space on the paper. So to make it darker again, I'm not going to go as far across. I'm going to do some smaller lines. And hopefully you can see that clearly. I'm stopping quite close to the edge. I'm going to do that all the way up. And then if you'd like it darker, just go back through. Doesn't have to be neat. Just lines going all the same direction and make them close together. So now you can see that we've got the light, the medium, a little bit darker, and our darkest. And that gives us a 3D effect as well. So have a go at that. I'll give you about 5 minutes to try it. If you've got questions, just ask.
Hey, Liv, we still have a bit of an echo coming through.
Okay, I'll be back and I'll try and fix that. Okay, I hope that's fixed it.
You just want to keep talking for a little bit, Liv, while people are drawing, because I've got some people commenting whether the echo's still there or not.
Okay, beautiful. I think I've just fixed it. If that sounds a bit better.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
From my end, I can't hear a echo anymore, so hopefully that's fine on Facebook as well. We'll ask for some feedback and see what they say.
Beautiful.
But we've got some followers at the moment, so that's really great.
Awesome.
Got some comments coming through.
Are there any questions?
Jeff just say that the echo's better.
Beautiful, thank you. So with this one, again, just starting lightest, and this is where our sunlight's coming from. So where the sun comes from, we don't want any pencil to really touch that. And then as it gets further away from the sunlight in this direction, that's where we want it to start getting darker, and that's where we're going to put our lines closer together. So I'm going to start slowly. You can take your time with this. Keep going on the other one. So our sun's coming this way with our 3D object, and that's going to be hitting this side of the square. So that means that this side I'm not even going to touch. I might do a few lines, but not many, just to show that that is the lightest side, and that'll give us some depth as well. So with this one, this whole side isn't really getting touched by the sun, maybe a little bit of this. You can play around, it doesn't really matter. But over here again, they don't have to be perfect lines. If you'd like, you can get a ruler, but you really don't need it. And just do some wide lines, almost all the way across. You can do some over here. And they're quite spread out, and then we can go back into them, just like we did the triangle. Notice again, not all the way across, just because this is our furthest away point from the sun, and we want that to be the darkest, just like our triangle. So I'm going to go back in. You can take your time. I'm going back in with smaller lines. And you can really do this as many times as you want. So by the end of it, you might not have any white space left in between. It might just be a block of lead color, which means it'll be quite dark. And then at the end, I'm just going to fill in all the way along. Just like that. So take your time with that one, and pop any questions in the comments. You might even like to write down that this technique is called hatching, and you can also find other shapes. You could do some circles in your own time. You could find an object in your house that might help practice for our still life next week. And just practice this technique or our other ones, maybe one of your favorites that you learned today, but there's plenty of resources out there to help you extend your knowledge on hatching. Disappeared. Hopefully you can see the gradient, white, lighter, a little bit darker, and then our darkest. If you've got any questions or you're having a little bit of trouble, just pop it in the comments, and I'll try and answer them the best I can as we go along.
No comments at the moment, Liv.
Okay, cool.
They're just saying that the sound is good and the echo's gone away.
Beautiful. Technology's finally working. Figured it out. Okay, so when you've done the front of the square, don't hurry, because I'll give you some more time as well. We're going to look at the top, and the top's going to be quite similar to the front. The sun might be hitting a little bit of the top, so we're going to go this way instead. So coming up, which is a little bit different. We're going to follow the lines of the square. So we're going to go horizontal, and then we're going to follow this line, and then we're going to do it like that to make it look like it's going further away from us. Okay, so with this one, we're going to start with maybe some big lines, maybe not too many at the front, go all the way across. My squares aren't perfect. It doesn't matter if you're beginning or you've had practice before. And then we're going to start on this end and adding just some closer together lines and just stopping about here. So after that, it's the same process as we did with this one in the front. And we're just going to make the lines a bit closer together at this end. Just to make it look a little bit further away. Or you might like to, pretending this is the top of our square, try something different and have the darkest points at this end here. So that might look like us coming down with some lines, getting closer together, but going only about halfway, and then getting closer together again, but furthest up the back. That will create some more distance as well. So I'm just going to write just here. This is our hatching technique. So just a few more minutes just to keep going with that one. Pop any questions in. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Thank you for supporting this video as well. It's amazing that you're getting involved. And I really hope that you come back to the next one and use some of the skills that you learned today.
So Liv, we've had a couple of questions about your pencil that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Cassie, she's asking if you're using a HB, and then we've got Lyndall asking what pencil are you using?
It won't be 1 second. So at the moment, I've just picked out a random pencil from my pencil case. I haven't looked at it. It's a 2H. This is a really good one to do outlines with, just because you don't have that smudge happening. As you go on to say 2B, 4B, 6B, the pencil gets softer. I might leave a comment on the bottom of the video after this if you'd like to order some online or go shopping or use some of these pencils. I really like using the harder ones, which is the usually HB or 2B for the outlines, just because if I do this, sorry, didn't show. If I ever do this with my hand, nothing will smudge, not even that. So that's quite a hard pencil, but usually for shading or filling in anything like what I'm doing with this, I'd use something softer such as a 4B or a 6B, and that gives you the option to go through with a blending stick or even your finger. You could use some tissue and smudge that out. So I'll swap pencils for our next one and use a softer one just to show you the difference. As well, if you're using a pen, that's okay, because on the third one I'll be using pen and I'll show you what that might look like as well. So you can use these techniques with both pencil and pen. But I do recommend softer pencils such as 4B, 6B or 8B just for filling in, because that works quite effectively.
So Liv, we've had a few people that might have come in just a little bit later.
Okay.
And we've got Miriam asking, what are the other shapes for?
The other shapes are for our the techniques we're learning. So we've used the triangle and the square or the cube for our first technique, which is hatching. And then we're going to use these two ones to do our next technique, which is cross hatching. Then we've got stippling, and then we've got blending. So that's just a way of us preparing just to have our shapes ready to learn the next technique. So if you've just come in, feel free to draw some of them now, and then we'll move on to our next technique, which is cross hatching, which is quite similar to our hatching that we've just done. Another really good tool to use when doing these techniques is charcoal. So I've got some charcoal pencils as well that I really like to use for these, especially our last technique, which is blending. It's a little bit messier, but it works really well for smudging and filling in shadow, which I really like. So there's endless opportunities of things that you can use. I think it's just about finding what we've got already in our house if you can't get out, which is absolutely fine. There's so many options that we can put together. Trying to find some pencils for the beautiful. So our next one, I'm going to use a softer pencil. I don't have any like 4Bs or 6Bs with me. This is a 3B. This is also a lot more dense. It'll be quite a lot darker too, which is really good, especially when you're creating shadow. So I haven't pressed that down too hard, and already that's darker than the darkest tone that I've used there. So these are really, really good for creating depth. If you can order them, you can go to the newsagent. Plenty of places that you can get 3B, 4B, 6B, 8B pencils, and they just create darker darks and smudge a little bit more than the HBs do. So our next one we're going to do is cross-hatching. I'm just writing these down for your reference. If you'd like to write them down, you can Google them. You can practice them a little bit more at home. But this one is quite similar to what we've done up here. I'll just demonstrate and let you follow along. We're going to do the exact same process as what we did with our hatching. However, instead of doing our closer together lines, we're going to cross over these lines. So the closer together the lines, the darker it's going to be. And the lighter, I mean, the more spread out that we go, the lighter it looks. And then we're going to sort of stop about there. So again, our sunlight is coming from this way, which means we're going to leave a little bit blank. You can always go over with your rubber and just rub a little bit out. And to get our darker darks, we can go over again and just do some more lines. And it's called cross hatching because we're just crossing over our hatching that we've done, making sort of a net. So that's what it essentially looks like, and we're just popping it into a shape. And try your best when you're crossing over to go in the shape of the triangle. So we're going to start at this point, coming down, and then we're just going to get wider as we go across to make our hatches. So if you've got questions about that, please ask. You can have a little practice. And here we go, I'm doing some smaller lines, getting further apart. Just like that. And this here is our darkest because our squares in the net are closer together and smaller. And then as we get bigger, it should leave some more white space. And you can continue growing over. So have a go at that. If you'd like me to demonstrate again, I'll happily do so. Remember to start with our hatching and then go over in the opposite direction like a net. Are there any comments or questions, Vicky?
No, not at the moment. It would be great if we could get some people maybe taking some progress photos of what they're up to and posting.
That sounds really good. Thank you.
So feel free. And I've been told I sound like the Wizard of Oz as the voiceover. So the Wizard of Oz would like to see some progress photos. If you could post them in the comments on the Facebook Live, that would be great.
And remember, there's no pressure if you're just learning. We're just learning all of this. This is actually one of my first drawing workshops, and I'm actually really loving it. So there's so many things you can learn and practice, and it's just really good. So I'm really excited for the next few weeks. So take your time with that one. I'm going to start doing our square, and you can just go along if you'd like. You can just watch and then have a go. But this one's going to be a lot easier than our hatching because you can go all the way across. I'm not too much of a perfectionist, but if you are, you can use a ruler and that would make some really nice lines. And just continue all the way along, and even a few here. But remember to leave some blank space, as just like with our hatching, we're trying to make some depth, and that's where our lightest light is going to be. So I'm going to leave that before our next step where we're going to cross it. If you'd like to have a go at filling in your cube. And just follow the angles. So if I'm on this one, I don't want to still be doing lines exactly as we did the square. I want to make sure that we're going up a little bit, not directly across. So just follow the angles of our square. Good, today I don't have the opportunity to dip my brush in, my paintbrush in my tea. So I've just got my pencils, which is good. But these techniques are really, really good. You can apply them to any of your drawings. You can apply them to faces. I know face drawing seems quite intimidating, but it's really good to get shadows under the eye, to do some, yeah, it's just really, really, really good to get some depth and shadows. And it doesn't have to look perfect either. So have a go at a few things during the week if you'd like, a few of these techniques. If you like drawing portraits, have a go at integrating some of these hatching techniques in, or our stippling or our blending technique that we'll learn. There's plenty of resources online that can help you integrate these techniques into other objects as well, which is what we're going to be doing next week. Are there any progress shots, Vicky, or any more questions?
Not yet. I think everybody's busy following all your instructions.
I know, sorry, I'm trying to give a lot. Let me know if I need to slow down.
No problems.
Okay, I'll just give 2 more minutes and then hop on to the next step of our cross hatching for our square.
Oh, I've just been told that unfortunately our Facebook doesn't allow us to post updates with photos.
Oh, okay.
So we might be able to rectify that for next time.
That sounds good.
We might be able to come up with another option that we can share. So we'll work on that.
Okay, I'm going to hop on and just do the second step. So far I've done this with our square, and now I just want to add our crosses essentially. So this one's a really easy technique, and it's really, really easy to integrate into other objects that we might do. So we've done a 2D and a 3D shape, so it's really good practice. So I'm going to start with our darkest. And these lines are going to be quite close together. I'm going to press down a bit harder. And then as we go across, you can press lighter and space out these lines a bit more. So I'd like to go and make this a little bit darker. So I'm just going over, pressing down, but also bringing these lines closer together and removing some of that white we have in between. I'm just going to keep going. And hopefully that gradient comes out a little bit better. So I'd love our darkest to lightest. And if you feel like you've gone too dark across, that's okay, because then you can just use a rubber or even just start again if you don't have a rubber on you. But if you feel like you've gone too dark here and you can't rub it out, just go darker on the other side and then go lighter. So you can always make your darkers darker. So we're just looking for that contrast. I'm going to start going along here as well. This is going to be a little bit lighter. I don't want to have too many close bits together. So that could be a little bit lighter. I might get a rubber. Just to lighten that a little bit more. And then I can just go back over with some bigger squares. So I'll leave a little bit before I do the top, and essentially that's the same. You just choose where you want the darkest to be and then choose where you want the lightest to be. I'm not using any special art paper either. I've just got a notebook from my upstairs room, and I do have the art material, but I just want to show you as well that it's perfectly fine to use A4 or A3 paper, and it should have almost the same result. If you've got some heavier paper, feel free to use it. That's quite good for charcoal. I really love that. But this is really, really good for just plain pencil, and it still works almost the same. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the top bit now, following this line here up. And I'm just going to go wider along here as well, just because this is where our light's coming from. So I want this bit to be quite light as well. So again, I'm going to make that a bit darker. And you can follow similar to this. So you can go up and across, up and across. And that can help you guide your pencil and to know where to start going lighter as well. So There we go. Make these lines a bit darker. Can always go over. And then you can go back over if you'd like. Again, with the first step, and just layer on those lines just to make them a bit darker as well. It's all about trial and error. And again, like this one, you can do some different shadows. So instead of going across, you can start at the back, quite dark. So this is going to be similar to the top of my square. You can work down and then make the whole back quite dark as well. And then make bigger squares towards the front. Just to make some distance. And then we can lighten up some at the front as well, just to create some more depth. Just all about practicing and trial and error. There are so many options that you can use. But yeah. If you've got questions, just pop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to keep answering as we move along. So I'll give you some time to do. As well, you can already see how dark this is compared to that one, and that's just because of the different pencil that I'm using. So I'm using a 3B. You can use 4B, 6B, 8B, and just get darker as you go. They'll smudge a lot more too. But that's just the HB or the 2B, and that's quite light. You can't get too many differentiation in the color or the tone. So that's my darkest black that I've made. But that's just down to the pencil. You can keep making it darker just by removing the white that comes through, and that's just by adding more lines in the gaps.
So we've had a couple of people that I've just asked everyone how they're going on the post. Miriam said that she's going really well.
Cool.
We've got Steph saying that she's good. We've got Linda who's saying that hers doesn't look like yours, with a very, very funny laughing face.
Why is that, Linda? What's I know it might be hard to describe over Facebook, but if I can help, I can try my best.
We'll see what she says.
A really good exercise as well. I know it's hard to jump straight to this. I'm just trying to give everyone as much as I can, and afterwards you can watch these videos again and just redo it if you'd like, just to gain some more practice time-wise. But again, these are really, really good exercises just by popping some wide lines, starting quite close together for our crossover lines, and then going further apart. And that looks further away, and that looks closer. You'll notice that these squares are bigger and those ones almost look like little rectangles. You can add some more lines. Lots of trial and error, but I hope I can help. I'm glad everyone else is feeling they're doing really good.
We've got a few more comments. So we've got Linda come back. She's come back to us and she said that she just needs a little bit more practice. Jeff says that he's going okay so far.
Beautiful.
And we think we may have come up with a little bit of a solution for seeing, for sharing our artwork. So feel free to take a photo either now or towards the end, and send it through to the library through Messenger, and we can start sharing it as different posts on the page. Like we can start up a little album.
Beautiful. I'd love to see how everyone's going.
We've got Tony. She's really enjoying this, but she's not an artist by any means. Tony, I know how you feel. You should see what I'm doing. And then we've got Patricia saying that so far she's going good.
I love it. Thank you.
Kerry's saying that she's okay. She just needs some practice.
Beautiful. Can I ask a question? Is anyone using a pen?
Patricia's saying she's got a HB pencil. So we've got Ray and Debbie saying that it's good that we're going to put this on YouTube so I can watch it over and over.
Love it.
As how internet keeps dropping out. We can understand where you're coming from, Ray and Debbie. That happened to us just before we came on. And then we've got Jeff using a HB and a 2B pencil.
Okay, beautiful.
Oh, and we've got Cal using his charcoals.
Oh, nice. I'm going to use charcoal for the last one.
Great.
Amazing. Okay, for the next one, I'm going to use pen, just in case anyone would like to try it. And I actually really love using pen for this one. If you've got a felt tip, I'm just using just a normal ballpoint pen. So I really love this one. It's very time consuming though. So this one is really good. If you've got time, you're just sitting at home, have a cup of tea. Sorry about the wind. This one is called stippling, or lots of you might know it as dotting, which means we're going to essentially do exactly what we've done by creating shadow, but by having dots closer or further apart. And you can try it with smaller, larger, but if the larger the object that you use this one, the longer it's going to take because you're going to have to add more and more dots. So this one, I'll just demo. So if everyone starts just filling in the triangle completely with some dots. So not too close together, keep them about the same distance apart. So I'm going to try and zoom in actually on that one. Just take your time to do those. I'm just going to try and get it a little bit closer. So the dots here don't have to be perfect. If you have a few that turn out like that, that's completely fine, like little lines. It's a lot faster just to go like that in the long run. But for the first step, just try and spread them out. When you've done that, so again, we're going to pretend that the sun is coming from this side, just like our other triangles that we've done. So this side here will be our darkest, and this will be our lightest, which means we're going to keep those dots further apart. So just like our cross hatching, the dots that are closer together are going to make it seem darker. So we're going to start in the corner. And don't be too precious with this. We're going to remove some of that white space and just do some dots all the way up. If you've got questions, pop them in the comments. This might take a little bit of time. But I really love this effect, especially with pen. It usually turns out quite nice.
So we've got lots of people saying, Liv, that they're using mainly pencil. Mm-hmm. A comment was around that can't rub out pen.
Yeah.
And there was, I'm missing some of the comments. It's not letting me load them, but I did see one saying that they'd love to learn to use a pen.
They'd love to learn to use a pen?
Yeah.
If you'd like, if you've got a pen in your kitchen or in your room, you're welcome just to quickly grab it, and you can draw another triangle and have a go. It's quite similar to pencil. There's really no difference. It's just I guess the color and the texture looks a little bit different, but essentially it's the same. I can do the square in pencil if you'd like as well, just to show both pen and pencil.
And so we've got Susie, who's using, I hope I pronounce this right, a Posca pen, P-O-S-K-A.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
That sounds fancy. We've got someone else who's switched to their fine liner. Fine liner. Got someone asking you for private lessons, Liv.
Okay. Yeah. I'm happy to jump in on the comments and direct message people if they'd like some more tuition on this. We do have the other 3 weeks to go, and if you really enjoy this, maybe we can extend it with the council. There's plenty of options as well, so I'll jump in on the comments afterwards.
So we've got Jeff, who is using a 0.4 Stabilo black pen, and it's looking beautiful. Good.
Awesome, I'm glad. The fine line pens usually turn out really, really nice.
Excellent. So my apologies if I'm missing anybody's comments, because I'm only seeing 4 at a time and then they kind of disappear. So, but we've got a lot of comments on here, Liv. I think we have a lot of interaction, so it's going really well.
I'm so happy, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move on with our triangle. So we've done our darkest, and you can keep making that darker by just adding more dots. That's how we make it darker. And we're just going to slowly go across and add more dots, but a little bit further apart as we go. So So I'm doing more along this line, but they're a little bit further apart, but they're still pretty close together as well. And all the way up to the top. So it will sort of blend from really close together to a little bit further apart. And we're going to keep, as we go across, make the lines, but not the lines, the spots further apart from each other, which allows more white to come in. So take your time, there's no hurry. I'm slowly, as we go, just doing some more dots across, and I'm just going to space them out a little bit more as we go. Hopefully you can start to see it go from darker to essentially lighter. I'd like this to be a little bit darker and go a little bit more across. So what I'm going to do is just go in with a few more dots and just make them closer together. So you can choose how dark you want. You could go dark all the way to here if you'd like and make this bit really, really light. But I just sort of want to show how we can go from dark, a little bit lighter, medium, lighter, and as light as we can. So I'm just going to keep going and just add more dots, but spread them out a little bit more. And then towards the end, we don't really need to add a huge amount because we've already got a few. And that's similar to leaving essentially this blank just by having less dots. So hopefully you can start to see a nice gradient going across. Another option too is having if you've started this and you're thinking, oh, I really want to maybe change it up a little bit, the lightest bit could be in the middle, and you could do the dark on this side for adding more dots and getting further away as you go to the middle. And I'll quickly do that and show you what that would look like. You can stick to the other way though. You can also do these to the cross-hatched ones and the hatched ones and just play around with, I guess, the shadows. I'm just mirroring the other side. So in this case, our sun, it's a funny little sun, the sun rays are coming up here, and that's going to be our lightest section. So there's lots that you can do. You can play around with it. that's what it would look like essentially without the dark. And that's with the sun coming from this direction. If you've got questions, just pop them in the comments and I'll keep answering those. But thank you for having a go. I'm really glad that everyone's getting creative at this time.
So we've had a few more people just comment and say what they're using. So we've got Cal using an Artline medium 0.6.
Yep, beautiful.
Patricia's got a 0.2 fine liner.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Ray and Debbie saying that they just like to see a lot more of this.
Beautiful, thank you. That's exciting. Something really fun as well, this is just an extension for people using the fine liner. Something really cool once you've done these, it might be a bit scary to do, but if you've got a paintbrush, you can put some water on and watch it turn essentially purple and into like a watercolor, which is really cool. So that's something you could experiment with fine line. Otherwise you can leave it, and that's a really cool option as well. So plenty you can do. Okay, I'll give a little bit more time for that one, and then I'm going to do this one in maybe charcoal because I heard someone is using charcoal. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use a soft charcoal pencil. You can use the stick charcoal, anything you like. This works the same with pencil. Charcoal's just a bit different to use, and it's quite dark upon pressing, so it should be a really nice texture at the end. So I'm going to make this whole square pretty dark because this is going to be the darkest side. So instead of making a gradient like we've done up here, I just want us to have a go at making the whole square quite dark, and it might take a little bit of time. You don't have to be too neat, and just fill it all up with dots. As you can see, it's a little bit time consuming. So this one, if you don't have too much time to do it, isn't ideal for super big items. I usually like to use it for smaller aspects and smaller elements of a larger picture, just so that you can take your time with it. And you can just spend time just removing the white just by dotting really close together. It also turns out quite nice as well if you'd like to ever leave white and just do certain sections. I actually quite like how that's turned out just with the little different areas of white, but you can keep going. And it's just about practicing the technique and getting the darks and the lights. So I might even just want to do a really dark corner and just put those dots close together and just keep going. this side, I don't want to have too many dots. So just like when we started the triangle, just put a few around. Doesn't matter if you didn't finish the first side. And we're just going to try and add a few on the top as well. So just take your time. And choose where you want it to be darker and lighter, and then you can just manipulate that and practice through the shapes.
So we have a few comments that have come through.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, it looks like Linda's a lot more confident. She says that she thinks she's doing a lot better job with the dots.
Awesome.
Cal is wishing he made a smaller square for this one.
Yeah, I wish I did too. You can always do a smaller square at the moment, like now, and have a quick go at trying to fill it up. Otherwise, in your own time, you can just have a play around. You could do some circles, you could do some squares. Even a fun one to do is like one of these, I guess a rope shape, and just trying patterns in there and filling that up. I really like to do that. Making these sides darker and then towards the middle really light with the dots spread further apart. This one's very meticulous for filling up with time. So if you don't finish the square, that's okay. I understand it's very time consuming. But I'm glad people are enjoying it and going well. Just a few more minutes on these. It doesn't matter if you don't finish. Just have a go at some sections and just practice with the dark and the light. You can even choose sections like I've just did the outsides really dark and leave the middle quite light. And then you can do the same with the corners as well and have a go. You could be happy with at the stage where you are now and go, oh, that looks really nice, I'm going to leave it. Or you could go, oh, I could have some darker here or there. I'm going to add that. So maybe just 2 more minutes just to have a quick go. It's just about learning the techniques today, and then next week we're going to integrate these into still life. So you can choose which technique you're going to use, and we're actually going to make a still life using some of these, which is really cool. You can use the dots in little elements or like, yeah.
So we've got Linda that says that she's using willow charcoal for the square.
Beautiful.
And Patricia's saying that she's finding that she's doing her dots in lines.
That's okay too. Lots of mine actually turned out to be sort of little lines. If you can see, especially there. It still sort of turns out the same way because you'll be looking at it quite far away, and with so many dots, it shouldn't matter if you've got a few lines in there. I'm just gonna.
And we've also got some people sending through some progress photos in our through Messenger. So we will get we'll probably have to do this after our event, but we'll compile all those images and we'll put them up in a post. So feel free to keep sending them through. That's or awesome. Wait to the end, take a photo and send it through.
Beautiful. I'm excited for next week's photos because we'll have some proper project pictures.
It'll be great to see.
Really good. Okay, so 1 more minute on that one. I'm just going to write our next technique name down. You can keep writing these down if you'd want as well. I'm a bit messy at this. Sorry, guys. It's blending. Here's our next one. I'm going to do an example in pencil because lots of people are using pencil, and I'm going to do one in pen just to show that you can actually blend with pen. It's a little bit harder, but you don't have to just blend with a pencil. So I'll do pencil first and then do pen after. So ideally for the blending one, you'll want to use something that's a bit larger in the number. So my largest that I've got is a 3B, but you can also use, if all you've got is a HB or a H, anything, charcoal is ideal for this. It's perfect, but pencil works as well. So we're going to use our last triangle, and I'll just demonstrate first if you'd like, and then leave some time for you to have a go. Feel free to ask questions. But with blending, we want to go the same direction. We don't want to change the direction of our pencil. So what we're going to do is start pressing down really hard and then keep that motion going. So just with your pencil like this on the paper, and then slowly lift the pencil so you're barely touching the paper by the end of it. And you can have a quick go at that now outside of your triangle and just see how you go blending from dark to light. And this is really beautiful as well when you start to integrate this into other. I think it's a really nice texture. And you can go back into it really dark and softer. So you can do a circular motion and just keep filling that up. The opposite that you can do is go from light to dark, which you can start here, go dark to light, and then just continue light and slowly start pressing darker as you go to your darkest. And then just go back into the light just to remove those lines. So ideally we won't have, sorry if I'm moving a lot. Ideally we don't want this, and have direct lines where we can see a line here going from dark to lighter. We want it to be nice and smooth. So you just have to go back into it and bring it back out. If there's any questions, feel free to comment and just have a practice. Oh, losing my paper. But this is a really beautiful one to practice.
So Liv, we've got Jeff. He's now going to try his 6B charcoal pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And also we've got another one of our staff working behind the scenes, and she's started posting the photos in an album on
Beautiful.
the council face on the Wallandilly Library Facebook. So keep them coming, and we can start seeing what everybody's been working on.
Awesome. So I'm just going to leave you just one more minute to do just a little practice like what we've got there, and then we're going to start integrating that into our triangle and our square. I've disappeared. There we go.
So we've got a comment from Cal.
Yeah.
He said that he is using his finger to smudge the lines out.
Beautiful. You can do that as well. It'll be harder to do if you've got a HB or like a harder pencil. But if you've got such as a 3B or a 4B, 6B, then you can start using your finger and blending that out. Oh, I'm loving these photos. They're really, really good. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to start with the triangle. You can feel free to keep practicing this. So what I'm going to do is go down like this, and the triangle's quite big, so I'm just going to go all the way up. And you might have to that's my darkest that I'm going to have. And I'm slowly going to go lighter. I'm just deepening that dark color all the way up. Keep going. And what I want to do here is bring that light color around to there, just so that we can have that roundness of a cone, I guess. So what we're doing essentially is turning it from a 2D shape into a 3D shape. A technique as well, I forgot to say, ideally you don't want your pencil straight up like that. Have it nice and loose in your hand, so you can use your fingers to guide the pencil, and use the very side of the tip of the lead. So you don't want to be using the point, you want to be using essentially the side of the pencil with this part on the page. Gives you more surface area to cover as well. I'm going to keep going back into my dark and just remove those lines. Make it a smoother gradient. You can get your finger if you'd like and go over it. But you don't have to do that. And then slowly just blending across and lifting your pencil off the page as you go. So I'm barely touching the page at the moment. I just need to fill in those white gaps. And then I'm just going to bring the dark around again. Just to make it a little bit darker, and then I can bring back some more white. And again, this is where our sunlight's coming from. So it's going to hit this section, and then we're going to have our shadow. So I'll give you some time to do that one. I hope that makes sense. I really love these photos. Thanks for sending them in, guys. Your pages look a lot neater than mine.
So we've got a comment from Jeff who says that he is using textured paper.
Yeah.
And it gives a different effect.
It does. It gives a different texture, which often turns out really nice. If you have textured paper and you'd like to use that next week as well, or during the week, you can trial these techniques on. If you can pop a photo through, Jeff, I'd love to see what textures yours have come up with, aside from the normal paper, and that might give some people some insight as to what textured paper might look like. So for the square, I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I'm going to use pen, just to show you that you can do this with pen. It's a little bit trickier, but it still does work, and it might give you some more practice into using pen. So I'm just going to move that one over there. So you can have a little practice as well here with the pen. If you're sticking to pencil, that's fine, or charcoal. So what I'm doing here is pressing as dark as I can using the exact same motion as with the pencil, pressing down really hard with the pen. And as we go across, I'm slowly pressing softer. So exactly the same as the pencil, and lifting the pen so it's barely touching. It's a little bit harder to do because you might have little blots of ink that just appear. Go back over it and slowly lift the pen as it goes. And then now I'm going to go from light to dark. So this is our lightest bit here. And I'm going to just start pressing a little bit harder on the pen. And you can go back in. It's a little bit different, but you still sort of get that dark to dark effect that you would with a pencil. With more practice, it might become neater, depends on what pen you're using. A fine line is a little bit more difficult, but this is me pressing quite softly with the pen and then pressing down a bit harder and then a bit harder again. So it's possible to use a pen, and I think it turns out quite nice with the colour.
Liv, we have a question about the pen. Mm-hmm. Patricia wants to know, are you using a biro or are you using a felt tip?
I'm using a biro. Felt tip might be a little bit more difficult, but it's still possible. I just find the biro very easy to lift off the page without too much ink coming out. I'm not too sure if I've tried felt tip lately, but I might give that a go too. So I'm going to start doing the square as well. There's no hurry for you guys to do that either. This is where our light's coming from, so I'm barely going to touch that. I'm going to do a little bit. Again, going exactly in the same direction as we've done in the past, such as up here, so following the angle of the lines. So I'm going to follow this line here. I'm sorry, that's not a very good angle. And fill that up, barely touching the page. And that's how that turns out with pen. You might have little gaps of white, but that's okay. This is where essentially our sunlight's coming from. And then for this one, I'm going to make quite dark. So you can essentially, and you'll notice that my pen is going in the direction of this line here, which makes it quite easy to follow around the side. The pen's a little bit harder. You'll have to keep going through to get rid of white, and it's about staying in the lines as well. But if you're using pencil, use same technique that we've done for that, and just play around with dark and light I'm just using the same tone for this one as the darkest side of our cube. And I'm just going to go back over that line, try and fill in some gaps. If you've got some darker areas, that's okay too. You could spend a lot more time on doing these as well. This is just a little demonstration. So if you've got lots of time, you can be really meticulous and try and cover the whole surface area equally in the same shade, or you can just spend a little bit more time covering it. I'm gonna make those a bit more. So this dark is really, really different to that light, which is really important for creating depth and shadow. Contrast is really important in making shapes seem real. What I'm going to do here as well is bring some dark just on this section of the surface area, just to bring this around to there, just a little bit. This almost looks like hatching with the pen, but if you practice like that, it'll look a lot more like the pencil technique that we've just used. And for the back one, we're not going to do as dark as this one. We're going to do a little bit lighter, but we're going to do darker than that. And we're just going to follow these lines here and shade that one. I'm pressing harder at the back too to create some depth as well. So this is further away from us, this line here. So I'm just going to try and press that darker as we go back. And we can always go back over it. So I'm just going back over and filling that up as much as I can. Always quickly edit your lines as well. I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit harder with pen, but that's just to show that pen is an option for blending. It just takes a lot of practice, maybe just by doing these exercises and practicing, okay, go from really, really dark and slowly lift the pen off. But it also depends on what pen you're using as well.
So Liv, we've had a comment that Cal's trying pen and he definitely says it's much harder than charcoal. And Jeff, who is using the textured paper, his photo has been posted if you want to have a look at what it looks like.
Thank you. So I'd really recommend something soft like charcoal or 3B or 4B, so on pencils for this. You can use HB, it still works, but it won't be as dark. I'll just give you some time to finish that one off. If you've got some more questions, pop them in the comments, but there are 4 techniques that you can use and practice. We'll be using these next week when we do a still life. So just make sure you've got some, say, cups or little plates or fruit, anything of the sort. I'll put a comment in under this video, or get the library to share a little post with some things that you might like to put in your still life. And then we'll use some of these techniques to shade our items. I'm going to have a look at
So Liv, we've got another comment from Patricia.
Yeah.
She's saying that she's finding getting the light enough with the charcoal is very difficult.
It's quite hard with charcoal. I'm just going to find a little space to have a go. I think Patricia's, I hope I'm right, is using the willow charcoal. But with a charcoal pencil, it's essentially the same as a lead pencil. You've just got to slowly lift the pencil off the page. But with a willow charcoal, I think one of the easiest ways is by pressing quite dark, going across, and then you've got to start blending it out with your finger. So that's an option for willow charcoal, is just doing quite dark, getting that quite heavy, and then blending that out to be light. I hope that helps a little bit. It's a lot trickier to strip back charcoal as well. Rubbers often don't work as well as pencil, but you can go back in with a rubber, Patricia, if you'd like, and lighten that charcoal up as well. So feel free, if you're not happy with how light you've got it, go back over with a rubber, and that should bring some back into it. Just looking at the gallery. Oh, beautiful. Lots of drawings. I love it. Yeah, they look really good. Beautiful. So just finish up those ones. Make sure to keep an eye out on the Wollondilly Facebook page for our next week's workshop as well. I'll be sure to update you with what we'll be doing and what you might need. And yeah, there are 4 techniques. So today we covered hatching, cross hatching, stippling or dotting. And then we also covered blending. So I hope you've learned some new skills with those today, and keep practicing some of those. Next week you might choose a favorite to pop in our still life. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad everyone got involved. If there's any more comments or questions before we finish up, feel free to post them now and I'll answer them before we finish our workshop.
I think there's a few more comments coming in for some reason. Oh, I've got thank you. This was really fun from Cal. Michelle said, thank you. This was a great session.
Beautiful.
There's a few more that I'm sure have come through, but I can't see. Oh, here's one from Patricia. Jeff, everyone's really looking forward to next week. Just a reminder to everybody that next week, again, it will be on the Wollondilly Library Facebook page, not the main council Facebook page. If you're having any issues with that, just please reach out and get in touch with us. Tony says thank you. Lyndall says thank you. It's a lot of really lovely feedback.
Beautiful, thank you.
Liv, and yeah, keep your progress shots and your finished pieces coming through. Make sure you send through Wollondilly Library Messenger, and we will make sure we get that up there in our photo album.
Beautiful. I've got, I'm going to put in or send to Vicky my Facebook page, and sometimes I update that with some tutorials. I've got a seascape tutorial up there if you've got paints, but we'll keep doing these live sessions. They're really, really good, and I'm glad everyone's getting involved. So
excellent. So thanks very much, Liv.
Beautiful.
We might say goodbye to everybody now. So thank you so much. Hopefully when I stop the stream, it stops it. But as I said, feel free to get in touch with us through Wallandilly Library Facebook if you've got any questions. And we'll see everybody next week.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.